Listen up, this is a Porsche 911 Carrera S. And have you ever wondered what it's like to drive? How about the interior? What about this one? How is it compared to the base 911 Carrera? So using this Carrera S today, provided by the amazing people from Porsche of downtown LA, I'm going to try and explain all that in this review of the Porsche 911 Carrera S. Plus mode, overboost on. Oh my God! Oh my God! Holy jeez! It was at this point when I realized the Carrera S was much faster than I imagined, but more to come on that later. Ah yes, the Porsche 911 Carrera S, a car that's somewhat become the quintessential sports car of the 21st century. One that wears a classic and timeless design, carries itself with rich heritage, and overall an aspiration for any car enthusiast. And in recent memory, the Carrera and the Carrera S have mostly existed together, with the S offering bigger engines, more performance, and at times, different looks. But things have changed recently with the 992 generation because both trim levels now sport the same wide body styling, the same 3-liter turbocharged engine, and in the interior, not many differences. Porsche made a drastic change to the interior of the 911 with the 992 generation, cleaning them up, going with a minimalist and modern look. The quality is very high, the design has some callbacks to 911s of old, and putting aside the fact that you cannot see the outer gauge pods from behind the wheel, the analog center tack is gorgeous and absolutely brilliant. Now, a controversial item with the interior of the 992 generation 911 has been the razor-style PDK shifter. Now, I personally don't have an issue with it, but one thing I'm curious about is if Porsche is going to update it with a more traditional-looking shifter found in the GT3 with the upcoming refresh of the 911 or the Carrera S. What else can I tell you about the interior of the 911? The overall size is great. I'm 5'11" and I fit in here just fine. I can see somebody taller than I am not having an issue as well. The seats, any of the 911 seats are good, whether base 14-way or 18-way. I'm personally particular to the 18-way seats. They're my favorite and they're the most comfortable out of all of the seats. And the overall technology or infotainment is also good, with Porsche simplifying their infotainment system recently, making it easier to use and get used to. The graphics are crisp and easy to understand. The responsiveness and the overall interaction is good as well. And let's not forget Android Auto and Apple CarPlay capabilities. So what's the big difference with this, the S model? Well, of course, the boost in power. You probably know this by now, but the Carrera S boasts an on-paper gain of 64 horsepower and 59 pounds-feet of torque, and with a PDK transmission has a claimed 0 to 60 time that's half a second faster than the base Carrera. Now, let's pick up where we left off and talk about some speed. Wow, that is unbelievable. Let's try it again. Downshift a second. Shaking there a little bit. And the power delivery, oh, it's unbelievable. So the Carrera S is just stupidly fast. But what about how it compares to the base Carrera? Now let's touch on some of the other things like the suspension. So this is a properly stiff car. In the base Carrera that I drove, it does feel a little less, what's the word here, tight than the Carrera S. This one feels a little bit more buttoned down across all of the modes, especially in Sport Plus. The steering is hyper twitchy. Anything that you do, this thing will move direction and is extremely accurate. It does lack a little bit of feel, but Porsche's electronic steering rack is probably the best at having feel in an electronic rack.
And then the transmission is wonderful. The PDK, the 8-speed in this, the latest generation, is buttery smooth. Whether you're shifting the gears using the paddles or whether it's doing it, it's just absolutely amazing. Even when you're in Sport Plus mode and you leave it in automatic, it will shift it properly. It'll downshift when you want to gear. It's almost like it's reading your mind. The PDK is absolutely amazing. So how is this thing to be able to drive on a daily basis compared to the base Carrera? I think it performs admirably. The PDK by itself makes it effortless to drive in the city. The suspension, even though not as compliant as the base Carrera, still does a good job of somewhat soaking up the bumps. Most of that is done by the seat, and this is the base seat. I mentioned earlier on, all of the 911 seats, whether it's the base, the 14-way, or the 18-way, are great. So would you be able to drive this on a daily basis? Absolutely. Now, how much faster is it than the base Carrera? It is significantly faster than the base Carrera. The shove that you get when the turbos are spooled up, there you saw it on the launch control, it totally just sucked me back into my seat. And even when you don't enable the launch control, this thing just flies. It's got plenty of down low torque and it's usable. That's why Porsche moved to the turbo setup, because of the down low torque and people's, I guess, desire to be able to drive these on a daily basis. And the 3-liter turbocharged motor and the PDK and just the overall setup of the Carrera S make it a very enjoyable driving experience. So that's the 911 Carrera S. It is blisteringly fast and much faster than the base 911 Carrera. It's stiff, but still somewhat accommodating to drive on a daily basis. And speaking of daily, you've got a front and some back seats that could accommodate most daily driving scenarios. But no matter which 911 you go with, whether it's the base or the Carrera S, I think you're gonna like it because they both deliver on the Porsche experience. The drive, the interaction, the overall feeling of a well put together, nicely thought out machine underneath your right foot. And frankly, those are the things I think matter the most. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions, please make sure you leave me a comment down below or just send me a message on Instagram @DriveSteady. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, drive steady.